I want to ask you a question, and I know this might be you may have to kind of explain this a little bit, and and that's what we're here for. We're trying to get clarity. Would you consider Hebrew Israelism or the idea of Hebrew Israelism a cult mentality, or do you think it just depends on who you're talking to?
Right. So I recently did a talk on this. I put up on the channel called "Comparing Cults and Hebrew Israelism," and if we strictly have a theological definition of any belief that is extends to heresy that from the Christian church, then it becomes by that definition a cult of Christianity, not necessarily a Christian cult, but a cult of Christianity. That's where it came out of essentially. But then that's the theological concern, which is a primary concern, which I think most Hebrew Israelism does rise to that level. But then there's the other element that a lot of people associate that think differently about, which is the element of the sociological aspects, and that has to do with the control and the brainwashing, and even getting into strange things like sensory deprivation and the overzealous nature, the cult of personality around a charismatic leader or group, the authoritative statements where one is speaking for God or divine power, those kinds of things. Not all Hebrew Israelite groups or Hebrew Israelites go into that realm. So Hebrew Israelism is this idea, and within people that hold to some level of that idea, there's all kinds of groups. And so, like Israel of God, I've mentioned them before. On the sociological level, I don't think they meet those kind of definitions, right? They're almost like a wayward Christian church, almost. I said almost now, but almost, and I don't think they do those kinds of things. The hardcore us versus them, and some of those elements of control. They let me in and talk to them a number of times, and we're very open. They sent, Israel of God, I don't think likes me as much nowadays because they're like, well, we tried and that guy didn't listen. But I will never view them that way, even if they think I'm an enemy, because I will always remember their hospitality and kindness and openness to me. So they sent me all kinds of materials, and I still cherish that. Like regardless of how they think about me now. So I'll talk about them positive, regardless of what they say about me. So that's the way I view Israel of God. So they don't meet those sociological elements. They're not they don't have a bunch of secret hidden stuff. They're not doing that, right? And that's different though when you talk about ISUPK. That's a cult. ISUPK is a cult. If there's a cult, that's a cult. The man in charge is the commanding general Yohana. He
Yeah.
says, and his followers agree, he's second only to Christ. What? You're required to give a certain amount of money or you're out. The list goes on of clearly cultic behaviors and activities, and not just theological, but the sociological level. ISUPK is a cult, huh?
Is that the Hebrew Israelite group that has the twins in it or something?
The twins.
I thought
Teo?
no, not Teo Ministries. I'm familiar with them, but I thought it was a Hebrew Israelite.
They might,
camp.
but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, are these the guys that wear the shades?
ISUPK loves to rock black shades, black leather, studs, spikes,
Yeah,
arm gauntlets,
okay.
armbands, a lot of cornrows going on,
Gotcha.
black boots, cargo pants, right?
Yeah.
That is, ISUPK is a cult. Like, there's no question they are a cult. ICGJC, that is a cult. Israelite Church of God Jesus Christ. And what's interesting is those two groups I'm mentioning, one is the direct continuation from the old One West school. ICGJC is One West transformed, meaning they still have Ariyah. He's like 82 now, but Ariyah is in the ICGJC.
Is that where Tazadakia came from?
He came out of One West, of course. He was a cameraman back in the day.
Yeah.
But then he took over the ICGJC until he died
Gotcha.
of COVID. But there's still people in that
Right.
that believe he's going to return, and there's some of them believe wild things like he's going to part the Red Sea so they can go into Israel, all kinds of crazy things. ICGJC is a cult, and they used to be really open on the internet. This is before I got involved, so people had to tell me on the message boards and stuff, and then they just really shut down. They're super insular. That ICGJC is a cult. Sakari.
Yeah,
Sakari
because
is a cult.
Tazadakia was saying that he was
Holy.
basically he was the Holy Spirit
Yeah,
incarnate.
yeah. He's a,
Man,
and if you
wow.
don't agree, he tries to say that's because you don't think that a black man can be holy or something like that. The dude will try to say stuff like that. So that's clearly a cult. The Sakari is a
Wow.
cult. You're a
Yeah.
grown man and you're on the street, and if certain people show up, you're ordered to get on the phone and call them and say, this person is here, am I allowed to talk to them? And if the answer is no, you have to cease and desist. That's what Sakari does, and they're not the only ones. IUIC does the same thing. IUIC and Sakari, cults. Now GMS is a cult as far as what they believe, but Tahar is so unorganized it's so loose that I almost don't want to call them a cult because they're hardly controlling anything. You ask Tahar, who's in GMS, I'm not really sure if those brothers are still out there or not. He doesn't. Nobody knows what's going on.
Right.
Like there'll be a guy with an account that'll say like GMS Long Island. They're like, he has the account, but we don't know who that is. Like they don't.
Right.
People just use the name. It's like the DIY of Hebrew Israelism, right? So I have a hard time. They are. Don't get me wrong, but I don't want to call them that because they're so disorganized. It's like they're not very effective as a call as on the sociological level. So I want to kind of give them a little break because they hardly anyone's controlling anything. But I mean,
Right. Yeah.
Tahar, he will say if he sees somebody with they're trimmed up or with braids, your hair needs to be like us, the apostles. We need to be like, hey, like you can't be trimming, which means look like you just I mean, no roundness. Nothing
Yeah.
shaped up. Just, that's the way you're supposed to look according to them.
I don't
So
know because there's a couple of guys that I've seen in their group. I think that there's one guy. I think he's
GMS,
Hispanic. Yeah, it's a light skinned guy. I think he's Hispanic. Look like he gets haircuts, and there's another guy. I think he's from the Caribbean or something because he has an accent, and he gets his hair cut.
he better hide that. He better wear a bandana or something so they don't see. Because
It's I saw them in this the video where they were out when Sarnetta and Brother Polite.
oh yeah,
I
yeah,
think yeah, and I mean when I look at that video, both of those guys look like they had been trimmed up and their beards is all lined up and all of that stuff.
yeah. It's kind of a loose thing. It's like
Yeah,
you can't look
yeah,
too groomed. Like because like some of the members of IUIC look like they come off the front of a box you would pick up for hair or beard products in the
right.
in the Walmart, right? But with
That's cool.
GMS, not quite as much, so there's like levels to it, right?